Well, welcome to this restoration of a Super II. This is going to be a complete restoration. I've done some videos on armature repair and restoration, but this particular one was a Super II that I'd found on the internet and purchased it. I noticed that there were some things missing, needed a just general cleaning up and going through and a couple of items to get it back to what I would call pretty daggone good condition and get it back to original. So as you can see here, I'm pulling off the rear wheels now. It had threaded style rear axle and the rear gear was incorrect. It's either a 14 or 15 tooth gear that was in it. It was black, black 14 or 15 tooth, but that was incorrect. So it should be a 19 tooth gear. Luckily, I do have a couple of spares, and I also have some additional rear wheels too that were original when these cars were produced. So we'll likely use those, and I think I actually have a set of sponge tires already on those wheels, so that'll make things a little bit more convenient for us when we get to that point. But right now, just generally just taking it apart. Just going to do a complete inspection, go through everything, make sure everything looks good, and clean it up a little bit. So this is just the disassembly portion of the video. I'm breaking everything down and getting it ready to clean. Looking over that front weight, every once in a while you'll find one where the front weight, the lead piece is missing. The metal's on there, but the lead's missing. And then that would have to be replaced. But in this case, that was there, so we're all good. Pickup shoes look to be original, but it's missing the braids. So I think I do have a set of shoes with braids on them. So we'll likely put those back on to get it as near original as we possibly can. And I noticed that this the screw here is original as well. So if you purchase some bodies, and I know you can find them on the auction websites and things, a lot of the replacement bodies came with a front weight, a new front weight, and it came with a screw in it, but the screw was fatter, and so the design of that was you screw in from the bottom and it goes into the weight, and that's what would hold it. They did away with the screw and nut combination, but to the best of my knowledge, the screw and nut combination was the original equipment, and in this case it's all there, so that's good. There's a little bit of my OCD trying to get organized a little bit so I can make sure I'm keeping up with everything. The chassis looks pretty good here. And you don't want to get too aggressive when you're cleaning them. That gold plating is super thin, and so you can polish it off or rub it off if you're not too careful, depending on what you use. Here I'm just using some distilled vinegar to clean everything up. That should be enough to break through any little grease or dirt or whatever that might be in there, oil, break that down, and just still be gentle enough for everything that's gold plated. Very rarely do you see one that all that gold plating is like brand new. I've only come across one, and I've probably had a dozen and a half of these things. But this gets them clean without taking that off. I think you diminish the value if that gold plating is removed. Get my camera to focus a little bit better. You can see it's pretty clean. Of course, the brush cups are unique to Super II. If you have fooled with them, you know that, but if you haven't, that's one dead giveaway. Is the Super II where your brushes go on the inside. Most of your non-magnet traction, magnet traction, TJ, etc. was just a round plastic hole, and then of course there was a metal piece underneath it. And then you would either, for the Aurora style and non-magnet traction, the brush would set right on that little tab. And then of course for the non-magnet traction you had a spring, which was very similar to the Super II, but in this case there's actually a brush cup that sits in there. It's also gold plated, and then it is fused to the tab, which looks very similar to a non-magnet traction. Those two are fused together, so you want to be careful not to mess those up. I'm quite certain they can be replaced, but they'll never quite look original. I know you can get replacements for them, but to be perfectly honest, I'm not quite sure why. I've never seen one where I thought those brush cups were damaged so severely that they needed to be replaced. I've seen chassis that were damaged where they got super hot and they melted the chassis, and so in those situations it's possible. I've never really truly seen a brush cup that was damaged. So if you have, pop it in the notes, send me a message. I'd love to hear about it, and of course, post some pictures so I can check that out. So everything looks good, chassis is clean. Now we're going back together with it. Start with the side weights. I'm not quite sure if there's a proper way to install it, but this just for me works without bending the prongs around. I've seen some pretty wicked looking bent prongs. Actually, on the next video we do a full restoration on what I would call a barn find of one of these. That particular one, the prongs on the side weights are just all jacked up, so we'll have to take some time to see if we can straighten them or fix them. If not, we may just have to replace it all together. But if you put it in the way I did here, very minimal tweaking to get those back in place. Now we're going back on with the front weight, and of course to get the guide pin back in the proper location, they have to go in together. And these front weights can come off with the front axle in it. It's a little tricky, but it'll come out of there. But you absolutely have to have your guide pin in when you're putting that weight on, because once the weight's in place, you can't get it by there. It's why the hole is there in the middle of it. So as I go through this process, I'm going to take the time just to clean up some stuff while I'm doing that. I think I'll start with polishing the screw here, get that looking good, nice and shiny. And I believe these things are stainless steel. They do have some magnetic properties to them. They'll stick to the magnets if they pop off. I don't know if that was by design or not, but I know if the magnets are in the car, you'll have a bear of a time getting that thing back in the right spot. But if you take the magnets out, typically they're a little easier to manage. But yeah, we'll polish this up, get it looking pretty decent. It looks pretty good. And we can put that back in there. And we'll do the same for the nut. Now luckily we've got this threaded axle that come right out of there, so what I'll do is I'll take one of the brass nuts, put that on first, and then I'll put the silver nut on after it and jam it up against it, and then that way it'll give me something to hold that while I try to polish it. Got it apart, you might as well take the time to make it look good. I'm kind of off screen here. You can't, maybe you can't quite see it. But I've just got like there it is, a battery operated Dremel tool. And I made a guess more like a cotton style, triangular, cone shaped, I guess probably more accurate tip for it. Using the round wheel that comes in most kits, I just cut me a pie out of one of those and then just trimmed it down with an X-Acto knife to get it more of in a cone shape. It doesn't have to be perfect. As you polish with it, it'll true it up. Plus, if it's actually not perfectly true, the various different bumps and raises in it will help polish as it goes through. But as you can see, it did a pretty good job on this chassis weight nut. I think that looks pretty good. We can live with that. And two of them were still jammed together. There we go. Put that on. Of course, it's made for it. Got the right shape, falls right into place. Everything worked good. Just snug up the screw and there you go. And that looks really good. One final little polish there. I know also when I got this thing in, it was missing pretty much all of the guts. No brushes, no springs. It did have the shoes, of course, we saw, and springs were on there. And I think I'm gonna wind up changing those out, be more consistent. They look different, so now I'm just kind of going through some of my stockpile here, pick out the best looking brush springs, pick up shoe springs, and then we'll pop a couple of brushes in there so we're ready to go. Find two that look pretty close to the same. I probably have 60 cars broken down, so I have plenty of extra parts here and there. Not 60 plus Super IIs, just 60 plus Magnatractions. A lot of the parts are interchangeable. Once I get these selected, I also want to get them cleaned up. I usually, when I have anything broken down, I'll just run through a little clean cycle. And generally what I do, or how I do that, is I will take some com cleaner, contact cleaner, and put that into a small cup, as you can see here. Just spray a little bit in there. It doesn't take a whole lot. Just drop those in there, let them soak a bit. That'll help break down any oil, grit, or grime that's on there. I'll let them soak, and it doesn't hurt the brushes either. It's made for cleaning circuit boards, etc. I think it's more of an alcohol base, so it's going to evaporate pretty quickly once you take them out. Wind up polishing the rear wheels first. So the tires are already mounted on here. I did that in an earlier time. I was working on another project and just had them on standby. I actually wound up going with a set of hop-ups on another car that I have in my display. So these were prepped and ready to go, but I had never polished them. So just want to give them a quick shine here. Take a little of that corrosion off of them. You can use pretty much whatever. You can use a compound or any kind of aluminum polish. It's probably fine. usually try to do it at least twice, depending on how bad they are. When you see me jump off screen here, what I'm doing is I'm just taking the tip of that and dipping it back into the compound again, just to get a little extra on there. Probably the hardest part is trying to get that stuff out of there once you polish them up. Getting it in there is not too difficult. Polishing them is not that difficult. But getting that compound out of the wheels and getting them perfectly clean, that can be a little bit of a challenge. I usually just take some small tweezers or a Q-tip. Q-tips work pretty well. Run this through there a little bit. Yeah. I wouldn't say it's a mirror finish, but it's pretty daggone close. Compound will get all the way down there on the inside, and when I do it, I try to of course I leave it on the axle. It's just easier to hold on to, but I'll take and pull the axle almost all the way out, and that way it's not protruding through. That way you can polish as deep down in the wheel as the wheel is actually machined. So try to get as much of it down in there as you possibly can so it looks good. I don't turn the Dremel on super high speed. Normally low speed's fine, or medium to low speed's fine. One thing you have to be careful about, if you use a compound on the Dremel tool that's spinning, I dip it in while it's still spinning so it'll kind of sling off the excess. But if you don't, as soon as you pull it out and turn it on, it's going to sling that compound right on off of there. You can definitely tell it's got some oxidation buildup on it. That's what's turning black on my fingers and inside the wheel. It's cleaning that oxidation off. We'll clean this one off and see what it looks like. Just be sure to put a good napkin around your tweezers when you do this. You don't want to take a chance on scratching the inside of the wheel. I try to double it over if at all possible. Adjust this out a little bit, just to make sure I'm getting all the way down in there. Now, if you're just stumbling across this video, this particular car I actually plan on listing on an online auction website. So if you're interested in making a purchase on this car, it will be listed for a short while. That listing will probably go up the next couple of days, which should be July 10th, 11th, 2025. So we'll have it up there. I'll do a full week listing on it. So hopefully you've stumbled across this video in time. If you're interested in these little cars to add it to your collection, I think it would be a great one to do that. It'll certainly be cleaned up and ready to go, that's for sure. Yeah, it's looking pretty good. Camera's not working too swift on my close-ups. There we go. Just had to hit the right zoom on it. Yeah, that turned out pretty good. Nice and shiny down in there. And this foam on the tires feels really good. Nice and soft. I put those tires on there, and they are glued on, just like the originals. And they're not original tires, they're replacement. So I trued them up. You don't have to worry about them being brittle or having to redo them. They'd be in great shape. And we'll go ahead and put the axle in. You know, what's unique about these Super IIs is they came factory with 19-tooth rear gears. So, and the fact that the rear axle was not a threaded rear axle, that they had set screws in the rear wheels. That's unique. And you can still find some set screw style wheels out there, but the Super II wheels are, again, pretty unique in their design. And they weren't wide from the factory. Now, you could get some hop-up rear wheels that came on in a package, and those wheels were a little wider, deep dish, and looked more like an AJ, but also were set screws design wheels. So that's a good way to tell them apart. If you purchase one or you're looking at one and it's got threaded axles with a lock nut on it, they are not original, and if you're going for a nostalgic look, you will have to find a set and replace them, and they're pretty scarce. When you do find them, they're pretty expensive. I think I saw a hop-up kit sell the other day on online auction, and it was $179, I think, plus tax and shipping. I try to line up the set screws if I can. I don't know if it's the right thing, or maybe they should be opposite. But you've got a set screw hole. There's two in each wheel, but there's only one set screw. I've never seen one with set screws on both sides. But I try to line them up. This car came to me with the incorrect gear, but we did put the 19-tooth gear back in it. Like I said, I happen to have one of those, so we know that's correct. I'm just trying to set this axle width. Make sure everything turns good and free. It's not binding up. Looks good. I think we can start with, now that the brushes and the brush springs have soaked a little while, I usually just take a Q-tip and kind of run down in there and twist it. You can see there. And between the Q-tip and kind of rummaging everything together there, they usually come out pretty clean. Remember, it's had time to soak to help break down what was in there. Just have to be careful. Sometimes those springs like to latch on to that Q-tip. So be careful of that. And then just pull them out. You can blow them off, let them air dry. But again, it's basically an alcohol base to it, so it's not going to hurt anything that they're wet. It's going to evaporate pretty quickly once you get them out. brush cups that we were talking about earlier. They look to be in really good shape. You can see those springs are nice and shiny. Clean makes for a good contact, which is always good. I'll wipe these off. I'll probably give them a quick brush across an eraser just to make sure that there's no harsh buildup on them. I'd like to try to just give them a quick slide right across there. You can see where I've done it time and time before. It just gets any of that corrosion buildup off of there. Flip it over on the dot side. Give it a little twist. If you guys have a better technique for cleaning these things, I'd love to hear it. This is the way I've always done it. Don't know that it's the right way. It just works. There might be some cooler ways out there to do it. And we'll kind of set this car on the track and keep it still. And get to the point where we can test the armature and make sure it's good. Again, I just recently purchased this over the internet, so chassis, armature, all that stuff is new to me, and I did not test it before I broke it down. We're just going at this cold, so hopefully it's okay. We'll run it through its paces. This spring wasn't quite making me happy with how it was shaped, so I'll flatten it a little bit and then come back and adjust it, tweak it a little bit. These Super IIs typically need a little bit lower brush spring in them. And some more tedious work. Get where it's balanced out. I always found a little extra spring there is okay, as long as it's not a stiff spring. So when they get hot, they're going to find their sweet spot. It takes a little break in on them, but I've never seen anything what I would call a perfect spring. I like my armature to kind of rest on the springs and not either be dangling by the top plate or the center pin running on the chassis. I like to kind of float and let it just be natural. Takes a little bit to break them in, to get those brushes seat against the armature really good, but I find that that's always what works best for me. I'll just clean off the top plate a little bit. I'm not going to bother with soaking it. I don't think that's necessary. Get this top plate all cleaned up. You know, and unique to Super IIs are top plates that are, one, they're black, and then two, they have these extra tabs on them. As a kid, I never understood what the tabs were for. Probably chopped off a couple of sets. I can kick myself now for it. But later in life, I learned that the tabs are there to help hold the flexible Lexan body up off the chassis. So when you drop that flip down chassis onto it, those tabs is what it hits. So they're again unique to a body that mounts at the front and pivots up and then rests on those tabs. Clean the magnets off a little bit. Again, just using some distilled vinegar here. Just general all-purpose cleaner. Both of these magnets are correct. Super 2s are yellow and blue, and they do have a dimple in them to be oriented. They were a little bit stronger from the factory than your traditional non-magnet traction Aurora style magnets. Stronger pull in combination with the quadrilarm armature that comes with the Super 2 was a great package for quick acceleration, good power, high RPM. If you were like my older cousins, you would take the Super 2s out and put them in your magnet traction cars once that generation came along, because the magnet traction cars would stick better. So the Super 2 Armature was a superior design, but the rest of the car quickly became outdated after a year or two. But the armatures themselves did not. So before we get into it, there was a quick snapshot. We just cleaned up the armature itself, the surface of the plate. Now, you'll have to look real close. My hand almost covers up the screen. If you see, it should jump around 4.5, 4.6, 4.7, something like that. On each one, you might barely see it in the corner. I think that was 4.6, 4.7, 4.5, 4.6, 4.5. Yeah, 4.5, 4.6. So looks like armature is reading good. Just a little note, I do some rewinding as well in armature repair. If you have a Super 2, these particular armatures are double wire wound, so that means there are two wires running in parallel on each pole, and they're extremely fine and delicate. If, by some strange chance, one of them breaks, just one of the two in parallel on a single pole, they will not ohm out correct across the plates. So as you saw there, it ranged anywhere from 4.4 to 4.7, which is about right for Super 2. I've seen them range anywhere from 4.1 all the way up to 4.9 on any given Super 2, and usually within 1 or 2 tenths on the from pole to pole. But if one of them breaks, generally, if memory serves correctly, you'll see 2 5s and like a 6.1 or a 6.2. And that's going to tell you that there's one wire broken on a single pole. And look closely, but it's probably really close to where it connects to the comp plate itself. They were pretty sloppy in how they made some of these, and the wiring was really, really close to the edge. And with the centrifugal force and the RPMs that these things had, sometimes it would sling them out and the wiring would loosen up. Plus it was extremely thin wire, very delicate, and the heat cycles would flex, and then the wire would relax and they get slack, and then they get hung on something along the way or taking them in and out, and next thing you know, you got a broke wire. And then of course you lose your performance because it's not balanced out accurately. So pretty satisfied with the armature at this point. What I'm going to do is just polish the upper clip. That joker was black as tar. So we're going to polish this thing up. It's supposed to be copper coated. Usually you can get these things looking pretty good. I've done this on a couple of other ones that I've done, and I always like the way they look. So I'll just give it a little polish. We'll kind of speed through this because it took a little while. Took several coats and rounds of polishing to get this thing back. Initially I wasn't quite sure if it would come back or not. Really won't know how things are going to turn out until we actually go to wipe it down and get some of that off of there. But as you can already see, it's starting to come back. Get this clip on, so once we get the armature, now that the armature's there and in there, the brushes, we don't want that thing popping out, springs and brushes going everywhere. So it's good to get this clip on, cleaned up, snap that in place while we continue working on the rest of the project. Oh yeah, like a new penny. I think they look snazzy with a nice shiny top clip on them. That looks much better. Much better. Now this way we can, once we get the pickup shoes on, we can give it a test too. So without the plate flying off, just snapped on in place. Axle still spins free, we're good there, so that mesh is good. Armature spins free, good there. Now, gotta figure out what we're gonna do on these pickup shoes. She's coming together pretty nicely. Basically what we got left here, we got the pickup shoes and the pickup shoe springs, we got the front wheels, center gear to install when we're all said and done. That's going to be pretty close to it for this one. These pickup shoes are original Super II pickup shoes, but the braiding on them has been replaced by me. I actually did those. The shoes were never run on the track without braid. Somebody had just pulled them off. In other words, there were no creases or lines on the shoes, and they weren't wore out. They were just missing. So what I did is clean them up really well and replace the braid on them. And I try to do it in such a way where you can't see the solder. You can just, if you look super close, you can see it. In a good way, if you're looking for 100% original, is the original pickup shoes actually have a crimp on them where they smash them and then they use heat induction to fuse the braids onto the pickup shoes. I don't have one of those. I'm not quite sure exactly what it looked like when they did it. So in our case, we use a little bit of solder and flux, and we put it in between the two and then heat it up from the shoe side. And then that way it'll draw the solder up rather than drawing it through the copper braid. and that way it retains its original look. In most cases, the first thing that people did, and this includes some of my family members that bought these things brand new, was rip off the braids and use the shoes without them. And the reason being is because the car sits so low to the tracks, the the copper braiding would hold the cars up off the track, and they wouldn't rest on the front wheels. So most folks would just pull those off and then just sand the shoes just like any other car. The idea was a good one when they came up with it, because the braids will actually maintain and get better contact, but they just don't let the car handle as well and keep the car as low to the track as it could be. Good. And I put two of the same style, older silver style springs on the front, which is what these things came with. They didn't come with copper springs on the pickup shoes, at least not that I'm aware of. Put two equal length ones on there, so they'll have pretty close to the same tension. And now we'll do a little test. I expect everything's dry and clean. We may have to oil her up just a smidge, just enough to give it a test to make sure it runs good, but we'll see. Yeah, well, it runs, but it was a little bit dry. There's some good oil here that you can put on for short applications. It's not super sticky. It's kind of at the end, just a touch. I don't want to make a mess out of everything after we took the time to clean it up. Much better, nice and free. Sounds like a Super II should sound. So now that we know it runs well, it did sling a little oil, so we'll just take the time here and clean that off just a bit. Braids, they are finicky. I like to try to keep them nice and true and straight, but whatever touches them makes them fray up. Got that part done. We can probably just slide that off to the side here. Right after we finish cleaning this up, give a little wipe underneath the clamp. Put the rear gear in it, but I don't think I'll test it once I put the center gear in it, because that means you have to oil the axle and oil the rear gears and all that stuff, and I just don't want to make a mess out of it. We know it runs fine. I'm sure it would need some seat in time and some oil to get everything running nice and slick and true, but we don't want to make a mess out of it. We'll let the next owner worry about that if that's what they want to do. Another thing you'll notice, Super 2's, the armature gear, they were silver. Any other car that I've seen, that armature gear is brass colored. So another thing that you can tell that's unique to them. And then also the middle gear on the Super 2 is black, where most others are gray. So a couple of little things you can look for to identify how original your Super 2 may be. But oddly enough, the gear on the back, the very rear gear, they were gray on a Super 2. Now, you could get replacements that were black, but the originals that came on them were gray. So now it's time to polish these front wheels, and I think we're going to be really close to wrapping this thing up. Yes, it's not too much left here. Use a little compound here and get these front ones polished up. Kind of speed the video up here a little bit. I don't want to waste too much of your time. This is boring polishing, but I think you'll be pleasantly surprised at the difference that using a little compound and cleaning these things up will do to revive what these things look like. I might even show you what one looks like that's been sitting. My barn find Super 2 that I intend to do a very similar video on, like this one, which it's in much worse condition. If there was such a thing as a barn find in a slot car, this would be it. And hopefully I'll do that one here in the next week or so and get that one posted for you as well. But it's sitting on the table just off screen there. You can see it waiting in the wings. But we can do a side-by-side comparison of those front wheels, what they look like when they've been sitting for a really, really long time, what weren't taken care of or stored in a box or a tackle box or something like that, where they were just literally like out in the open, and what the difference between what they look like and one freshly polished looks like is pretty significant. But you can do this to most any aluminum, and that's why you can see my fingers are turning black and all the oxidation, corrosion as you polish it off and get it restored. As far as that bit, again, I made this one. Took the little rounded wheels that come in with most kits, just cut a pie out of it, and then just trimmed it down, and then glued that to a small bit that I had, and it works pretty well. So while we're going through this process, at the end of the video will be a pop-up. It'll have my smiling face on there. Don't forget to click on that. Like the video, hit the notifications, and subscribe to the channel. That way you'll be updated. This won't be the last, or hopefully it won't be the last, as I do other smaller projects and share those with you as well. Again, just to reiterate that this car is, as soon as it's complete here, we're going to get it listed on eBay and auction it off, and hopefully share this link with folks, and hopefully you're watching that. I hope you appreciate these cars as much as I do. I know as a child that I didn't have the money to be able to afford them. And even though I was born in the 70s after these cars were produced, I had family members that played with them, and it was always something that was just out of reach for me. And now as an adult, they're considerably more expensive they were when I was a kid, or certainly more expensive they were when they were produced. But I do have a very fond appreciation for them. I play with a lot of the magnet traction and non-magnet traction, and even some new Auto World T-Jet stuff. But just hope to share these with the world and bring my mechanical background to the table in restoring these things, and hopefully being collector items for not only myself but for other people. But yeah, that polished up pretty daggone well. Looks good. It don't have to be specific to a Super 2. I mean, polishing the wheels could apply to AJ wheels if you've got those. I know I've got quite a few sets of the manufacturer-made glued-on silicone AJ rear wheels, and you can polish those as well. And you just might want to remove them when you do, so the axle's not protruding through, or you would tear the bit or your polisher wheel. Yeah, then make them shine as well. The front ones, I never had much luck with the Super 2 style front wheels on my AFX cars. I like more of the independent front axles. I see a lot of people these days run a solid front axle through different aftermarket manufacturers, and they work really good to get it low to the ground, but I always liked the independents. I always felt like they were a little freer and allowed the car to flex and as they run around the track and be independent of each other, less restrictive, if you will. And I did put this on double time, if you're wondering. So we're running along about twice as fast as it actually took me to polish these up. Usually about 2 times across the surface. So I'll dip the polisher into the compound a couple of times during the process, and usually try to hit every surface at least twice, and then at that point just clean that off, get them shined up. And the more you wipe them off, the shinier they get. So it's like it leaves a residue or film on there, and I guess theoretically you could put a nice clean buffing wheel on there and rebuff them, and they would probably be even better. But just hand wiping them off usually gets them pretty good. There's another thing too on these front wheels. If you do plan to restore one on your own, this one I was lucky enough that the front wheels actually came apart. Some of them are really tight, and I would encourage you that if you pull them apart and the front wheels don't come apart easily, to not force them. You can severely bend the front axle or damage a wheel, mar it or scar it up, or even bend it to some degree if you're not really careful. So this one came off, which is great. We were able to clean it. I'll get it back on, get it reattached, and get it fastened up nice and solid. But I would not encourage trying to force them off. Like I mentioned earlier on the video, you can take the weights and stuff off with them on. There you go. There's a side-by-side. So I think it's a little bit of difference there. But I would, if you're going to take it down and clean it, just leave the front wheels on. You can polish them on the chassis, is fine. Yep. I think pretty good. We don't need that other rear axle anymore. That was the screw-on axle. That actually looked like one of the hop-up kit rear axles. I'm sure I'll find a nice little home for that. Put some aftermarket silicone tires on it and put it on something. I've got several sets of those. Now it comes time to put that front axle on. And then rather than do any kind of crimping or anything, I'll just use a little tiny bit of super glue on here. Put it just on the inside of the independent wheel, not the one where the axle's on it. And then once I run the axle through here, I'll put just a tiny drop of super glue on the axle itself. It won't take much. All you want is just enough to, once it bonds and sets up, that wheel won't fall off. And in this case, if you really wanted to get off, you just give it a little pressure and it would pop back off of there. But just if someone chose to drive it around the track, it's not going to just fly off of there. It was a pretty snug fit. And I'll use gel super glue on here as well. It gives you a little bit more working time and then it's like the friction. If you twist it as you're going together with it, it'll begin to set up quicker. Kind of seats in there a little better, gets in little cracks and crevices, and I'll take this little Q-tip and wipe away any excess that might be there. We don't want that to be on the chassis or anything, so that looks pretty good. And these tires are original. I didn't replace them. I thought about it, but they actually look pretty good. They didn't appear to be dry rotted too bad. I didn't see any serious cracks or anything in them, but when it did come off, you could certainly tell that they had age on them, but they were not so severely dry rotted that they weren't usable. So for the purposes of keeping it nostalgic and original, I just put them back on there and left them on there. As you can see, it turned out pretty good, nice and shiny. I'm always amazed at how those the copper clips look after you polish them up. But overall, very pleased with this project. I hope whoever buys it really enjoys it. And I appreciate you watching these videos. I have a good time making them. Certainly have a good time going through the cars. Those pickup shoes turned out really good. And I hope you guys continue checking out my future posts. And if you haven't seen some of the other ones, we go through an entire series of how we restore and revive an old Super II Armature. One that most people would have discarded and thrown away, including keeping the original windings. So thanks again for watching the video. Last time I'm going to say like, subscribe, and that way you'll get notified of all the future videos that I produce. Thanks for watching. This is a little bonus footage for those who are interested in purchasing this item on the online auction website eBay. Just want to get some close-up shots for you. If you got any questions or concerns about it, or just generally just want to see how things went with the project, feel free to message me here on YouTube, send me a private message, or you can hit me up on the internet, on eBay. But this would be a great car to add to anybody's collection. Again, this should be listed July 10th, 11th, 12th, somewhere along in that time frame of 2025. It's a great car. Good luck. Happy bidding.